Welcome to the Food and Movies Podcast. I'm your host, Paul. That's my friend, Jeremy. This is the podcast where we investigate the intersection between food and movies. We tell jokes, overthink things, go on tangents, and generally express our love of both food and movies. Jer, the hell's the movie this week?
It's an interesting film. One that I hadn't seen in years. Raging Bull.
Raging Bull.
Little De Niro action. Little De Niro, Pesci, Scorcese, the trifecta. This is the early De Niro, Pesci, Scorsese, right?
God bless these guys, man. They've been at it for so... I love a group that sticks together like this.
They're just, yeah. They're tight.
Yeah, it's not just De Niro and Pesci and Scorsese. Paul Schrader, the writer, also wrote on Taxi Driver, also wrote a bunch of stuff for Scorsese. But, man, I watched this movie, and we often watch movies that are 10 years old, 15 years old, even 7 years old, that just seem completely dated.
Yeah.
This one did not seem dated at all. This one seemed like a modern movie. It had pace, it had interesting ideas in it. Mess with the format, great editing, great sound. But I mean, it moved. It really moved fast.
Yeah. I mean, I think, look, you can tell that a lot of the practical effects, is that a word? Practical effects?
It is, yes.
The blood.
Yep.
And the way it was shot, it was very stylized. And it felt to me almost as if it was making up for the fact that the technology wasn't there yet, so Marty was kind of doing his thing with it. But it also was I'll be honest, I haven't seen this movie since I was very young. And the context in which I saw it was I had watched Rocky, or Rocky 4, or one of the Rockies. And I was talking trash with a friend at, on the schoolyard or whatever. And Rocky is the best boxing movie ever made. And he, my friend, who's probably way ahead of his years, was like, you have to watch Raging Bull because that's the best boxing movie ever made. And only because of the blood, the gore, the way it was shot. Because as a kid, they're not going to understand the backstory. They're just going to look at those boxing sequences and get jacked up about that. So I watched it and I was like, that was terrible. It wasn't as good as Rocky. But then you watch it now as an adult with a different appreciation for film. And after also having seen Taxi Driver, which I think is an interesting movie that if you look at it in parallel to this movie, I get it more now. I get the style now. Because Scorsese went away from this after a while but this is almost like Scorsese, classic Scorsese mixed with Woody Allen in a way. Just the way, the raw way that it's shot. It's, I don't know, you know more about movies than I do, but I'm just giving you my idiot's guide to how it looked and how it felt to me. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it does. Absolutely. Raging Bull. Funny you mentioned Taxi Driver. That movie, I think that movie created or invented incels. That's the first incel movie.
Interesting.
I mean, you tell me.
He wasn't stupping in that, was he?
No, he tried to, but he sabotaged himself. He took Sybil Shepherd to a porn theater.
Oh, yeah.
She was into him, and then he sabotaged himself like an idiot.
The classic first date, the romantic first date, a nice porn theater.
Yeah, but you could see how the psychology of the incel leads them down this road of mania to commit violence. It's pretty much the story of every incel committing violence to this day. And yeah.
Look, I'm almost modern day Nostradamus predicting the incel.
Well, it was Paul Schrader who wrote the script, so I think Paul Schrader might have had incel tendencies at the time. I'm not sure.
Interesting.
Yeah, but
what's like Catch? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, Catcher in the Rye you're mentioning.
Yeah,
that was the first incel novel, I guess.
Yeah, so it seems to follow that kind of shtick, if you want.
Yeah, the alienated young man.
Yeah,
angry alienated young man.
Yeah,
Oh, I like the chalice you got with what is that, a martini?
It's my martini. Yeah, dry January's over, so
Okay.
I'm back to drinking on the pod. Don't
All right, 2
demonetize.
olives.
This is 3. This is
3 olives.
this is water. Don't demonetize.
Okay, no. But one thing I loved about this movie was it had so much sophistication in the filmmaking techniques,
Mm-hmm.
the camera angles, the way the camera moves, the editing. Scorsese does not get enough credit for how good of an editor or how well his movies are edited.
Yeah.
But it was one of those things where it had all this modern, very reminiscent of French New Wave modern techniques, but the subject matter was this urban story of these very low working class people who are struggling, and it's crazy, and they're all piled on top of each other, and the intensity of the working class psychology of New York at that time. Because I mean, these people are really on just yelling at each other. There's domestic violence. There's violence among friends. So it shows you a side of, I guess, society at that time, but it's sophisticated in the way it's filmed, though. So it's that contrast of what you're seeing and the way you're seeing it, which is, I thought, really well done and really smart by Scorsese to do that.
Yeah, I mean, Scorsese really, like, it's funny I mentioned Woody Allen, because Woody Allen does that from a different lens. He examines New York society from a different lens a lot of the time. But so does Scorsese, right? Like, they're both. Oh yeah, they're the New York goats.
Yep. Yes,
and if you think there are a lot of characters, like we said, there's Pesci, De Niro, Schrader, Frank Vincent, who is in
Salvi,
every mob movie. No, you know what I mean? Like, he's the dude in Goodfellas. Where you get your shine box,
Casino.
Everything. He's in Sopranos. He's like the mob guy. Frank Vincent's amazing. Rest in peace, Frank Vincent. I believe he is dead.
R.I.P. Yep.
But these are like, there's mob tendencies here. Like, Frank and his guys are clearly, there's some connected thing because they're throwing fights and they're doing that. But also, what I love about this movie, that reminded me where I wanted to go with that. This movie doesn't use a lot of exposition to tell you what's happening. It lets you connect the dots. For example, that first woman he's with, that De Niro's with, that it's just like oil and vinegar. And then all of a sudden he brings the other girl over and he's like, oh, she's gone. And it's like, they never tell you that they split.
No, I know. They
just never. You. Yeah. They don't. They let you figure that out. You, as the intelligent viewer, to fill in the blanks. And I find in film these days, not to keep harping on Burnt, but Burnt was a big kind of film that was like, wow, you've been away for 16 years and all this stuff has changed. And now let's continue with the story. This movie had none of that.
No.
And it's like, they didn't even tell you that. And this was something that I suspected. And maybe had I gone on the internet and read about it, I could have been told I was right or wrong. But like, a lot of De Niro's behavior is clearly some sort of, he's got brain like he's been punched in the head too much.
Oh yeah. He's clearly suffered. I mean, he's probably been through some kind of childhood trauma. He's grown up in a violent environment. Yeah. And then he's getting punched in the face, CTE. Yes, there's something off about this guy.
The way he goes from like happy-go-lucky to complete sociopath in just a snap. He thinks Pesci's sleeping with his wife. He thinks, you know what I mean? And it was very subtle how Scorsese did that.
Mm-hmm.
But once you pick up on it, you're like, okay, I get it. Like, this guy, he's either not very smart or he's got some problems. And they did it in another movie with Russell Crowe. It was a Cinderella Man. You ever see that?
Mm-hmm.
Boxing. Yep. They did that too, very subtly. Like, I think that was borrowed. I feel like I've seen a lot of boxing movies that borrow from this boxing
movie. Mm-hmm. Right. Well, I absolutely love boxing stories, like the historical boxing stories. I'm on YouTube. I'm watching stories about boxers all day long because the whole world of boxing fascinates me. It's just filled everyone in boxing, from the promoters to the managers to the trainers to the boxers themselves, they're all hilarious characters.
Yeah.
They all come from poverty. They all manage to scrape their way up somehow. You know, the boxers, it's like, all I can do is punch and take punches. That's my only shot. I will do it. There are no rich kids or even middle-class kids who become boxing champions.
No.
They get punched in the face a couple times and they're like, there's easier ways to make money. I'm going to go be an accountant, you know?
Yeah.
So in order to be a champion boxer, you basically have to come from poverty and have no other recourse. And then you get all these people around. The trainers are often ex-boxers who didn't make it. Something happened in their life that they weren't able to make it. So now they're training other kids. The managers, they're all crooks. They're all street guys, you know. Promoters, they're all scumbags too. So the entire world of boxing just fascinates me. And there's a great book of short stories, $1 Million Baby, the movie $1 Million Baby.
Great movie.
That was a short story in this short story collection called Rope Burns.
Yeah.
I recommend it to anyone who's interested in boxing because the short stories in this collection are amazing. They're amazing.
Interesting. We're plugging a book now. All right. I like it.
Yeah. I just really enjoy it. There's a story in there called The Black Jew, which I think you should read because, you know, being Jewish and whatnot. But...
So it was my nickname in prison, actually.
Oh, damn. Cold. Real cold.
And we're canceled.
But I actually did some boxing when I was younger.
Yeah.
And surprisingly enough, I lost most of the ability to smell because I took so many punches to the nose. It crushed my olfactory nerve.
Can you taste?
I can taste, yeah.
Okay. My half brother has something. I'm not going to get too deep into it. I don't want to out my half brother as a guy who got, I don't know. He's got something with his septum, and he can't taste. He's never been able to taste food in his life. And then he had a surgery once, and for like a week, he could taste, and then it went away again. But
no,
his ex-wife was a professional chef. How ironic! How ironic is that? And I was talking to him about it. Recently, and he's like, "Yeah, I don't," because I'm moving closer to him. He actually lives in the area in which I'm going to be moving to. And I said, "Where do you get food?" He's like, "Oh, I just go to like No Frills or whatever because I don't spend money on food. I can eat craft dinner or I can eat a steak, and to me, I can't taste the difference. It's just a textural thing." So
he's the opposite of you. You love food.
Oh, I love food. Yeah. And texture plays a part, is one element to eating. But to him, eating is all about texture. So if a food is off texturally, like shellfish, shrimp, it's a weird texture. He's not going to bother but like a nice soft craft dinner, that's going to go down smooth. That's going to get it in him. And then he can go on out, but he focuses on clothes. Like he loves his clothes, and he's one of the most stylish dudes you'll ever meet.
Wow. You said this is your half brother?
My half brother. Yeah.
Your family is like the Royal Tenenbaums. Your family is fascinating.
It's an interesting, one day, maybe not. The Gross family tree grows sideways. It's a very interesting,
okay.
It's a very interesting, it's fascinating.
All right, we don't have to get into it, but I will say it's very interesting. I will say this though, in my experience in boxing and sparring guys, 9 out of 10 guys out there, you hit them with a really solid shot, like you hit them cleanly. 9 out of 10 guys will, at the very least, pause, like take a second to reset, or they'll take a step back.
Yeah.
But 1 out of 10, if you hit them cleanly, it's like hitting a switch on them where they just come at you.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's a conscious thing. I think it's one of these things where their wires cross and they're not even in control of it. And I think in this movie, Raging Bull, he's one of those guys.
He's that guy.
If you catch him, his instinct is to just come at you.
Yeah.
So
I do some, as like a middle class guy, I do some boxing for fitness. Like I don't fight.
There you go.
We spar, of course, but we're putting on the giant head pad and we're not very good at it. But the people that they pick for boxing, like I think, what was it? The guy who was Tyson's for early trainer, Cus D'Amato.
I love Cus D'Amato.
Yeah,
I love that guy.
He picked guys like Tyson. Like he would go out and actively find guys like Tyson because they are that guy. And any fighting thing, I used to study Bruce Lee's, when I lived in Asia, I studied Bruce Lee's Kung Fu, Jeet Kune Do. And what he understood about fighting, and this is why people who are in fighting train more than they fight, right? The fight lasts an hour, you're training a year for that 1 hour, right? Let's just, I don't know the ratio, but it becomes muscle memory. You're not thinking. And Bruce Lee always said, don't think, feel, right? He says it in his movies all the time. Fighting should be an instinct. It's not okay, this guy's punching me here. Because when you're getting punched in the face, you're not thinking. There's no,
you're not.
Right? So fighting needs to become it just needs to become a body reaction, right? And that's why people like Mike Tyson, when you punch Mike Tyson, it just winds him up.
Yeah, like you mentioned Cus D'Amato. I talked about how many fascinating characters are in boxing. Cus D'Amato might be the most fascinating guy in a world of boxing.
I mean, look at Rocky, that trainer who died in the third, who got killed by
Mick.
He was a Cus D'Amato knockoff, right? Like he's that that guy who everyone, you're a bum, like, and Cus D'Amato was like a little old dude, but he was apparently, like, from what I've read about I'm fascinated by Mike Tyson, by the way. Like, I think Mike Tyson is not only a fascinating human being, but pound for pound the best boxer of all time, and everyone's going to argue with me on this, but. And it's also not very original to say Mike Tyson is the pound for pound best boxer of all time, but I just think he is. He's just, for a guy, he's the last electrifying heavyweight for me.
Yes, absolutely. No one, he's the last charismatic electrifying heavyweight. Yeah. It's funny because Mike Tyson learned Cus D'Amato's peekaboo style. If you watch his style, it's almost it's almost a purely defensive style. It's very hard in his defensive posture. It's hard for him to attack. So you have to throw a punch at him for him to slip and then come back. And Cus D'Amato basically invented that style. He tried it with he perfected it over time. If you go back and watch, his first champion was Floyd Patterson, another great heavyweight champion.
Great fighter.
Yeah. But Floyd Patterson was doing more straight down bobbing, and then he refined it and started, instead of doing straight down, he would go side to side bobbing. So, and apparently he studied like martial arts and other things, and also there's a rumor going around that a lot of the way he developed his style was by watching cats fight, and the way that cats kind of do this. I have no idea if that's true or not, but yeah.
But Tyson needed a style because he was a small heavyweight. Like he was
5'10".
So he had to be the inside fighter. Like guys like Evander Holyfield, who were much taller than him. Guys like Lennox Lewis. That's the era I kind of know when Tyson was kind of on his decline. But Tyson would have to get in, right? And then he threw nasty hooks while he was in there, and he had such fast hands for a heavyweight. But his hands were so fast, but like so powerful.
Yeah.
He's a fascinating fighter because he's not like, if you look at like the Klitschko's, who are great heavyweight fighters in their own right, and great mayor of Ukraine and all that. But they're big, they're tall, they can sit back, take a more European style stance and really like just lay into you that way. Whereas Tyson would, that straight jab, Tyson would then be already on you, and you can't. He's just a fascinating dude, and now he sells pot, which is great.
God bless that man. We can do an entire podcast on Mike Tyson.
Mike Tyson, come on the podcast, please. I could talk to you for hours.
Oh, we could, absolutely.
I love that guy.
Another thing I wanted to mention before we get into the food, by the way, we're going to eventually get into the food.
Yeah.
Another thing I wanted to mention is that we already talked about the tracksuit incident at work and how that was one of my great performance art moments in life.
Yeah.
It contributed to you in a positive way. You became a tracksuit aficionado.
It was a life-changing moment. It was a revelation for me.
Yeah. The other one that happened at Anderson was I got Mark Maristella, a young art director, into boxing, which he continues to do to this day.
Dude, and if you watch him in his
good.
YouTube, he's not only good, but he looks. Now, I'm not Freddie Roach here, but I watch a lot of boxing, and he's technically really. And it's funny because he adopted there are different styles. I'm learning more and more about boxing now as I go, but there are different styles around the globe. Like a fighter from South America has a different style. A fighter from the Philippines has a different style. And Mark is Filipino.
Yep.
And he fights almost like, I guess he watched Pacquiao or something coming up, because he's got, for a big kid, he's not a small kid. He's got some quick hands.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And he is a southpaw. Pacquiao's a southpaw. So he's probably watching southpaws. Pacquiao probably showed up. So shout out to Mark, the baby shark, Mark Miller.
Yeah, he's a legend. He's a beauty. He did that Ad Wars thing where they box. I remember when he did that.
I told him about that. I got him into that.
Yeah, he's a legend.
Yeah, I'm so happy for him too. You know, I just really I enjoy adding things to people's lives, to whoever I can kind of bump into and be like, hey, you know what? You'd be a good boxer, or you know what? Tracksuits. I think that might be your thing. So,
but it changed him, because he was like, he wasn't the most in shape dude.
No.
But now you look at him and he's like built. Yeah. Like
and it builds so much confidence too. Yeah. You know, it really does. Yeah. I would encourage any young man out there, learn to box. Yeah. Just for the confidence that it gives you.
Pick up a martial art. I've always there have been stages in my life where when I was in high school I did judo. And I was terrible at it. Like I'd come home, I'd be like, I won bronze. And they'd be like, oh, awesome. How many people were you competing against? 2 other guys. You know, like
still won bronze, bro. Yeah, still counts.
Still a winner. But I had a lot of fun with it. And a lot of it was because as a young dude, you get so much going on. You're aggressive, you're angry, and it's just, you go in, and even if you're not winning the fight, you're wrestling. Judo's all wrestling, right? Yep. So even if you're not winning, you're trying to win. Your body is doing things, because we're not meant to just sit here and podcast. We actually should. And I know I'm going a bit Joe Rogan here, but we need to be physical.
Yeah, especially young men. Young men need to.
Yeah. And then when I lived in Asia, I did Jeet Kune Do, and we would literally sit, and this was back when I smoked, and we would sit, and sometimes we'd have beers, and we'd smoke, and then we'd do some training, and I'd always go to the instructor who trained on, one of the few people that actually got to train under Bruce Lee. He was like, whenever you get Jeet Kune Do is not about like form, it's about understanding how to fight, right? And so whenever you get into a fight, you're probably going to be drinking and smoking. So this is why I don't mind if you drink and smoke.
Nice. I like that attitude. Yeah.
Very, very unassuming little Taiwanese fella. And shout out to Sammy, guys, my hero, one of the greatest dudes I know. You'd see him walking around, and his school was across the street from this bar. And he'd walk past the bar, and everyone knew who he is. And there would always be these like Taiwanese gangsters hanging around. And the bartender would always be like, how much do you want to see them pick a fight with Sammy? And because Sammy would just like, he was the most unassuming guy, but when he showed you something, he'd be like, you have to get up in their face. And all of a sudden he'd be like, right there. And his fist would be like right in your face. The coolest guy. And then now I'm doing boxing and kickboxing, and I love it. I'm never happier when I'm not punching or kicking something.
Oh, it's a good time. Yeah. It's a really good time. Yeah, really enjoy it.
I agree with you, though. Everyone should do it.
Yeah. It builds your confidence, gives you exercise. It trains you mentally, it gives you mental toughness too. So
it's
really
fun.
recommend it.
It's
all
fun.
over the place. Yeah.
All right.
Absolutely.
So we've spiraled down that road.
We spiraled down that road. Is there anything you'd like to say about the movie moving forward before we get into the food? There's not much, but we can get into it a little bit.
No, I wonder how, and this may be a final thoughts thing, but I wonder how this movie would, like, as a film, yes, it does totally resonates today. There are a lot of themes in this movie, domestic abuse, things like that I wonder how they would be taken in today's environment.
Not well.
Not well.
Purport.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but it would be a very, I think this movie today would be a very controversial film.
Yes. I will say that I really wish that Scorsese had made another boxing movie, but then again, if he did, everyone would compare it to Raging Bull. It would be almost, because he made that movie with the ambulance with Nick Cage. I forget what it was called. Bringing Out the Dead. He brought up Bringing Out the Dead.
That was a while.
Which, I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. But everyone was like, oh, you're just rehashing Taxi Driver. It's Taxi Driver by a different name. Even though it was a phenomenal movie, it got knocked down because everyone thought it was some kind of light rehash of Taxi Driver. So I guess Scorsese really can't do another boxing movie at this point. I mean, after Raging Bull, can you?
I don't know, because I think if he followed a different formula, right?
Okay.
Because he is a formula guy. He has a formula for the way he does movies. Wall Street, Goodfellas are exact matches in their formulaic approach. This movie to me feels a lot like Taxi Driver. I think you're right. Like there are similar elements to the way they are and the way they tell their story. Like they're driven by one character. You're always watching De Niro. It's almost like there's never a scene that De Niro isn't really in.
Right.
I know that's probably not true, but it feels like you're always following De Niro in this movie. And in Taxi Driver, you were always kind of following De Niro in that movie.
Yes. Yeah.
Sort of. It wasn't like single camera, but you know what I mean.
Well, wish fulfillment. I'm just going to try to speak this into existence while we're talking about it. Scorsese, make a Cus D'Amato movie. That's what I want Scorsese to do. Make a Cus D'Amato movie. Biopic.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah.
I could see that.
Yeah. So I guess that's the end of the introduction. We should get into the food.
Hell of an intro.
Well, we had to pad it a little bit because there's not a ton of food in this.
There's a couple of scenes here and there.
All right.
I struggled to think of a recipe, so I might have to come up with this one might actually need me to do a video recipe because none of the food was really. Well, let's get into it.
Okay, all right. So we get into the movie right away. We're thrown into the ring, which Jake LaMotta, he's taking a beating from. Who was he fighting? Was Sugar Ray Robinson?
Yeah, he fights Sugar Ray Robinson a few times.
Yeah, he fights Sugar Ray. I think they fight 8 times in real life. They fight a lot in actual real life. Takes a beating. And then later on at minute 8:51, this movie cracks me up, man. It's so funny. 8:51, Jake is sitting there and his wife is clearly mad at him for something that we are unaware of. She's giving him that look, that look where I'm mad at you and you need to acknowledge me. And he is saying, don't overcook the steak. Don't overcook the steak. She's cooking a steak in a frying pan.
That's how
an argument ensues where she's like, they get into an argument over the food, and he's saying how bad the food is. He burnt it, and she's saying, "Did you eat them? Did you eat them?" He's like, "I got no choice. I got no choice." And I'm like, God damn! This must be real. This things must happen because Scorsese lived in these tenements in New York. He probably saw characters like this. But what are your thoughts on the "I got no choice" steak?
I mean, look, that's usually how I cook a steak.
Oh, you start yelling at your significant other?
Yeah, I yell at my wife, but I cook the steak. Sorry, camera. Got some technical difficulties there. But this is kind of where I was thinking, like, maybe this could be our recipe is like, I want to explain how to cook a steak.
Oh, okay.
Because
I'm for that, yeah.
Because it's funny, you said that. You're like, yeah, she cooks it in a frying pan. And Arguably the best way to cook a steak, unless you're going to get fancy and use sous vide or something like that. The basic way I used to cook steaks all the time is I'd get a cast iron, like a skillet, or a stainless steel frying pan. And I wish I could bring it up and show you. My stainless steel frying pan is like black because I use it to cook steaks. Because the steak adheres to it. It gets that caramelization. It also has a metal handle. So basically you sear it on both sides really hot and then toss it in the oven to finish. And you always get like just juicy steak. And then it translates to other meats. Like you could do a chicken breast like that. You can do a bunch of other things like that, salmon. And you don't have to be forgiving. You could just go hard and you can have a steak in 15, 20 minutes. And it's always good. Every time.
Okay. Nice.
So that might be something as we go through. I may think of something better, but I think that's a very classic New York scene. Like they do it in The Sopranos too. Sometimes they're cooking something and they have a fight, and she throws the pot roast at the guy or something. Like this one scene in The Sopranos that I do remember is Tony's sister's cooking for Richie Aprile, her first love interest, and he says something and then they get in a fight and she shoots him.
Oh my God.
Like
I remember that. I do remember that scene. Yeah.
A lot of domestic violence happens around the cooking of, and it usually is a steak. There's something manly about coming home to my wife just cooking me up a nice steak. Like that's a 1950s, 60s New York guy, lower class. It's a nice night to have a piece of meat. Usually it's shoe leather. Like
it's just some caveman stuff when you get that steak, it's like this guy is a boxer. He's a savage. Of course he's going to eat a steak.
It doesn't look like a great cut. Like she puts it on his plate and it's kind of like, it's not your ribeye. It's not your New York strip. That thing was kind of maybe, who knows, like a flank steak or something like that. Like whatever.
And she birthed to a crisp too.
Yeah.
So that's just not great. I would be upset too if someone burnt my steak to a crisp.
You're not a steak guy. We've been down this road.
Yeah, I'm not. But if I'm going to eat one, I want it done right, like the way you say. Pink in the middle, seared off on both sides. Don't burn my steak. I don't want to eat a belt.
Do you like it raw or rare?
Yeah, I like it rare. Yeah.
Rare. Okay. Or medium rare.
Yeah, that's the way you're supposed to go. Pink inside, right? That's how it's supposed to be.
So pink on the inside is medium.
Oh, sorry, bloody in the middle.
Bloody and almost like a good medium rare steak, in my opinion, should be pink. But like when you get right to that middle point, depending on the gauge of the steak, the thickness, it should almost still be kind of raw in the very.
That's what I like. That's how I like it. Yeah.
So medium rare. And I don't get into, it's like you with your rating, like a 5.5. I can't do. We're not allowed. I don't. Now, if you go to a steakhouse, you can be like, I'll have medium rare plus. Which apparently, if I were a chef, I'd be like, yeah, medium rare plus. Okay.
Yeah. Get out of my restaurant. We don't want your business.
Yeah. I don't. It's either rare, medium rare, medium. Anything after medium. Look, if you like your steak well done, if that's how
Come on. Who likes their steak? That's ridiculous.
I don't know. I've never seen it. But I've heard.
Why would someone buy a steak if they're going to get it well done? Why don't you just have a hamburger?
There are ways to cook a steak well done that it's still juicy. There are ways to do it.
Is there?
Yeah. Oh, I could do it for you. I could do it for you with using sous vide, using technology. Yes, there are ways to do it. But do you want to?
Do you have a sous vide machine at home?
I do. Yeah, I use.
Do you use it for your steaks?
Yeah, I use it for steak. I don't need to because I can do it just as well either way. It's easier. And when I cook steaks, my wife and I have steak maybe once every 2 months. I prefer to cook steak. I'll go to a nice steakhouse, but I get annoyed because it's like spending $300 for something that I can get for $30. Right? Yeah. Like, it doesn't make sense to me.
And they always put too much salt on it too, I feel.
Yeah, well, steak can take a beating. Like you could put a lot of salt.
Yeah. But I feel like they put on way too much salt and butter
Okay.
You need those. You definitely need them, but I think they go a little overboard because I think people at a restaurant, they overindulge. Let's put them a bunch of salt and butter on it. But
yeah. And also butter, go unsalted with your butter when you're cooking a steak. Always use a lot of butter.
Do you baste it in the pan with the butter?
Or if I'm sous videing, I'll literally put like 3 pads of butter in with the steak.
Oh.
Because when you cook a steak,
hold on. What goes in the sous vide bag when you do the sous vide steak?
Butter and garlic. I don't season it.
Butter and garlic. Okay.
I don't
No rosemary.
Yeah, you could. I don't. Okay. I find I don't taste. I'm a former smoker, so I don't taste that. I would never taste it. Some guys love that and swear by the butter base with the rosemary, and that's fine. Rosemary is good, but a steak in a sous vide bag, where was I? I lost my
Yeah, that's where we were. Steak in a sous vide bag. I asked you what you put in the sous vide bag.
Yeah, just garlic, butter. Don't salt it. You can, after you pull it out of the bag, you can salt the hell out of it. Pepper, a lot of pepper, but pepper after you've seared, because pepper burns hard and fast. Mm-hmm. Right? There's a lot of little intricacies to cooking steak, but once you know how to do it, it's the easiest thing to cook.
Do you take your steak out to rest before you cook it? Do you take
so
it
if you
let it rest for a while?
If you sous vide a steak, you don't have to rest it.
Oh, sorry, that's right. We're going sous vide here.
But if you do it hot and fast, there are 3 ways I know how to do it. There's sous vide, reverse sear, which is actually kind of a different way of sous vide. Like you cook it very low and slow in the oven for a bit and let it kind of come up to the temperature it needs to, and then you quick sear it. Or you put it in the bath and you do it the same way with sous vide, and then you sear it.
Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, what about aging? Do you indulge in aged steak?
If I'm out, yeah, I've had one that's been like super aged, and it was good, but it was weird. It wasn't as satisfying to me.
Oh, okay.
But we once went to my wife and I went to Jacob & Co. for a special. That's like a pretty bougie steakhouse in Toronto, and they were like, "Do you want to try I get a New York strip. I'm a New York strip guy. I like it because it's a harder steak. A ribeye is a great steak. A ribeye is the Cadillac of steaks. The New York strip is not as good as a ribeye, but it's harder to cook. If you can cook a good ribeye, to me, you know how to, because ribeye can go dry on you in an instant. A New York strip can go dry on you in an instant. A ribeye's got a lot of marbled fat within it, so it stays moist. It's easier to cook for me.
Okay, like the challenge. Oh, so do you like the easier
cook or the not? I like a New York strip because there's less fat within the meat.
Okay.
Harder to cook, and if you do it right, it's a more, I don't know, it's just a more beefy steak.
Okay, and what are you going as far as sides go?
Mashed potatoes.
Straight up garlic mashed?
Garlic mash, whatever kind of mash, any mash. Because I cut a strip of the steak, scoop the mashed potatoes on, and then cream spinach.
Cream spinach? Interesting. Okay, always. I didn't know that.
Always. My wife gets mad at me because when we go to a steakhouse, I'm predictable. Starter's always shrimp cocktail.
Okay.
Love a shrimp cocktail.
Solid. Very solid, yeah.
It's like a very 70s appetizer.
I mean, this whole thing sounds like you're one of those guys from Anchorman going to get start off with a shrimp cocktail, steak. After that, we're going to smoke a dozen cigarettes and go find a hooker, like whatever, all those 70s stuff. Yeah.
Kill a drifter, whatever you need.
Kill a drifter. Yeah. All those things. All right. That sounds good, man. That whole steak situation sounds really good. I really should expand my steak palate. I feel like at this stage in life, I've been avoiding it for a while, but we'll see.
Next time you're in Toronto, you come by. We'll play around with it. We'll have some fun. Have you ever had steak poivre? French with the pepper cognac sauce. You can light it on fire. It's a good time. There's plenty of ways to eat a steak.
It's chicken fried steak, which I've heard is supposed to be, several thousand calories, but looks incredible.
Yeah. anytime you eat a steak, it's sitting in your colon for a couple weeks.
Right. You basically have a guest inside you for a couple of weeks. So still delicious though. Still delicious.
It's great.
Yeah, steak. We gotta do a whole episode on steak. Maybe
we need to find like a good steak movie.
I don't think I know of any.
But
people who, one of our 6 viewers, tell us a steak movie down below.
Scorcese, if you want to go Scorcese, great steak scene in the movie. What was the Daniel Day-Lewis, Leo, where the Gangs of New York?
Gangs of New York, yeah.
He literally like takes a piece of meat, puts it on something hot for a second, and then just eats it raw. Oh, that's a great scene. Great scene.
Oh, what a savage. I don't want Scorsese to die, man. I just want him to keep making movies forever. I don't want him to die. He's him, Spielberg. These guys are legends, and they continue to get better as they get older too. Directing is one of those things where you just get better as you get older. So,
but also, I think a lot of that is like you keep giving these guys new ways to do things. Mm-hmm. Like you can tell on Raging Bull, Scorsese had a reel-to-reel camera, and he was like, "All right, I got to make magic with this."
Yeah,
and so it's a very tight, personal, macroscopic story. But then now you see you go to revert to Gangs of New York, or revert to one of his more recent movies, and it's like you're shooting digital. I don't know if he's one of these I don't shoot digital guys, but
well, he did all the de-aging on The Irishman,
right.
De Niro and all these guys.
And he could just play with this stuff. And in this movie, the makeup with De Niro, how like when he was young versus when he had Joey Mata's or whatever the bar was called, when he was older than he almost looked like middle young James Caan.
Yeah,
with that like
and he got fat. They let him go off and eat a bunch, and then shut his scenes where he was actually fat.
Yeah.
So, man, I think he was the first person to do that, really go method. And everyone in the 70s was like, oh my God, we got it. Like all those really egotistical actors and vain actors were like, I got to get fat now for a role. Is that how I get an Oscar? Like, God damn, I don't want to do that.
But it's also funny, it is very method, especially in this context, because fighters and boxers are always doing that. Yeah. To make weight. Right,
Roberto Duran was famous for getting very fat after he would fight. So,
yeah. You ever see a movie called The Great White Hype?
Oh, Damon Wayans.
Yeah, Damon Wayans was a pro boxer, and then they were like, "We need to find you." And that movie was a great spoof or a lampoon, as you will, of the boxing industry, because the guy was like Don King. And then they brought in the like white Irish guy to fight him, and he's just like, I don't even need to train to fight this guy. He just gets the gut, and then at the end you're like, this white guy's gonna beat the crap out of Wayans. And he just like, spoiler alert if you don't want to watch The Great White Hype, he just like knocks him out in one punch.
Yeah, Peter Berg was the Great White Hype, the guy who ended up directing a bunch of movies.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Peter Berg.
Great movie.
And and also the lady who plays his wife cooking the steak in this, how she's kind of hysterical and like, you want your steak, reminded me very much of the lady on SNL who does the boxer's wife character.
Yeah,
I forget her name. But that's I think this may have started the whole hysterical boxer's wife trope. Might have started with this one.
It is
either this or Adrian from Rocky. I'm not sure, but yeah,
it was one of the two. But it is a trope, right? This movie, it's funny because it was almost the birth of a genre, right? And I don't know of many, maybe you do being a film guy, but this kind of started boxing movies for me, at least, is the earliest known evidence of a boxing film for me. And it had that like. And then that wife trope appears in other things. Like, you're never gonna make it. Like in music, in movies where it's the Johnny Cash movie, or one of the Walk the Line, and then they made fun of it in Walk Hard. Like you're never gonna amount to nothing, Dewey. And then they find the other woman.
The one who believes in them. Yeah.
I think also De Niro's character is a bit of a trope.
I think he may have become a trope, but I think at the time...
Oh, not in this movie, but it becomes a trope, right? It's the guy with a dream.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And everyone's trying to hold him back.
He has a bit of a spiritual connection to Brando's character in On the Waterfront. Kind of just like a working class guy. Like, because Brando in the movie On the Waterfront, he was a boxer. And he took a dive and it ruined his career. And now he's on the waterfront working the docks.
Right.
And there's that whole speech of, I could have been a contender. You should have looked out for me. All that stuff. So
that's a famous speech.
Yeah. So boxing has been one of these things that has been known to be one of the very few ways that people in the lowest rungs of society have been able to actually climb up a little bit. And you see it in America. The first boxers were Irish and Jewish. They were on the lowest rungs of the economic ladder. And then now, as time has gone on, it became more Mexican and African-American boxers. Yeah. And then you see Eastern European boxers coming out now, Russian boxers. Yeah. But they're always... The Klitschkos are the only boxers I know who actually were middle class, and they ended up becoming champions.
But they were like probably from some USSR genetic breeding athlete program. You know what I mean? Like
for sure.
You look at those two guys and they're just animals. Like they're smart. They're super clever. They're huge. It's like Yao Ming.
Yeah, I think both Klitschkos have at least master's degree and possibly PhDs. They're both university educated guys.
They were just bred. They were probably part of some super soldier program that got scrapped after the Soviet Union collapsed.
Yeah,
and then now they're just superhumans.
Yeah, they don't even realize why. They're just like, maybe I'll try boxing. Oh, I'm really good at this. Maybe I'll become a math professor. Oh, I'm good at this too. Who knew? And they don't even realize that they're actually genetically bred for this kind of stuff.
Damn, why couldn't I be that?
Yeah. How much do you think it would take to get the Klitschkos to fight each other? Two brothers.
They never did, huh?
I don't think any brothers have ever fought each other.
At this point, it's not worth watching. There was a whole thing about it. Like, when are you guys going to fight? Vitaly, what's the other one's name? There's Vitaly.
Vladimir and Vitaly.
Vladimir and Vitaly. I forget which one would have won.
Vitaly.
One of them was better than the other.
Yeah, I believe Vitaly was the one who almost beat Lennox Lewis and then became the lineal champion.
Right. Lennox Lewis, there was another great fighter.
But there are two twin brothers who are superstars in boxing right now, the Charlo brothers.
Right, yeah. But what weight division are they? The
Charlos, they're in a lighter division. I believe they're in like the 160s. Let me take a look here.
So boxing's dying because one, everyone feels it's rigged.
Well, most of the time it is.
And two, there are no electrifying heavyweights.
No. Well, Tyson Fury, I think, is electrifying. No, sorry, Tyson Fury and the other dude, the American guy.
Jake Paul?
No, not Jake Paul. Punchable face, but not Jake Paul.
He's doing a lot for the sport, except for the fact that he's not good at it.
Well, he's picking guys he can beat. He's picking guys that he's taller than and he's bigger than, who are not straight up boxers. They're UFC guys mostly.
Yeah. Did he fight? Did he fight Conor McGregor?
No. Conor McGregor recently has announced his UFC comeback fight versus Michael Chandler. So that's going to happen.
Yeah, I don't know if Conor McGregor... Oh, yeah, no, Conor McGregor fought Floyd Mayweather. He went over to boxing.
Yes.
Yeah,
made a ton of money.
That was like the great white hype for me. That was what that was.
Conor McGregor is an absolute... So people should study this guy.
He's amazing.
Yeah, because the fight game is known to create tragic characters. These great fighters, these great men who end up destitute.
Yeah.
Conor McGregor was playing three-dimensional chess in the fight game.
Yeah.
He's like, okay, I'm going to conquer UFC. He did that. And then he says, okay, I'm going to fight Floyd Mayweather in a boxing match. And while I do that, at the entire press tour, which is getting millions of eyeballs too, I'm going to have my own whiskey brand right here.
His whiskey's good. He doesn't own it anymore. but it's
Well, he sold it for a couple $100 million.
it's
So
fantastic whiskey. Proper 12.
within the course of about 3 years, he went from a contender in the UFC to multi-millionaire whiskey baron, and then just dipped. He's like, I don't got to fight anymore. I got all this money. And
Yeah.
it was an incredible chess game that he played with the entire fight game and how he created the wealth for himself.
Yeah, but he created a character. Like, that's what he did, right?
Yeah,
like, he basically said, I'm either going to have to punch my way to the top of UFC, or I can become a polarizing dude.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Like,
and he also had all these Irish guys. He was very ethnic about, a lot of ethnic
pro-Ireland. And then anytime that happens, you get all the U2 guys with their flags. Like, the Irish guys are half the people that are super proud to be Irish aren't even Irish.
No, I kind of want to be Irish personally.
Yeah, well, cool. It's like, you're 15th generation Irish and you live in New York. You're not Irish, man. Like, you're all kinds of things.
Irish is one of those ethnicities where people love to tell you that they're Irish.
Yeah.
Irish, Italian.
I'm proud to be Irish.
There's a couple of them out there where they really love talking about it.
It's the original three. Like, Jewish is less so because
you guys are the opposite. You don't want anyone. You don't brag about being Jewish.
Well,
no one I know.
The ones that feel safe do.
Oh,
like,
really?
Me in Canada, I feel very safe. I'm not being. I mean, look, there's anti-Semitism, and I'm sure people, I'm sure people don't like me or whatever. Who cares? But if I were in Europe, or if I were living in Israel, or there's still some safety issues with being Jewish. But early on, there were the Irish, the Jews, and the Italians, and the Polish, and they all came over, and they all kind of worked together, fought together. The Gangs of New York story, and the Italians and the Irish now have they're white Europeans.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But they went through their stuff. Like, the mafia happened because they built themselves up over time. They were discriminated against.
Oh, yeah. Being Irish was considered to be very, very just basically the same as being black at the time. There were signs that said no Irish, no black.
Yeah, no Jews, no Irish, no black, no dogs, whatever,
Yeah.
Like, that was a historical thing. And for some, I guess, because they're not visually different. Like, you couldn't tell me I was Irish or Jewish, right?
No, I have no idea.
Right.
Yeah.
So, visible minority versus other type of minority, religious minority.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we got a lot of that steak.
Yeah, we went deep. God. We went deep there. We're going to get canceled. We're going to get canceled for sure.
It's funny though, because that steak scene, Joe Pesci's character comes in, Joey, and Jake is he just had this huge blowout argument with his wife. Then he sits down very calmly. He's talking to Joe Pesci's character. He's like, "My hands are too small. I'm never going to be a champ. I can't hit with these hands." You know what I mean? It's like, man, these are really specific worries this man has, and you can see his temperament. He can go from just a blowout argument to just be like, this is just normal. This is what we do.
Yeah.
I'm going to have a fight with my wife. I'm going to sit down with this guy and be like, talk about my hands. And then I'm going to get this guy. I'm going to convince him to punch me by wrapping his hands up in a napkin and punching him in the face for no reason. It really takes you into the psychology of this guy. I mean, it's just something incredible.
Yeah, I think De Niro played this very well.
Yes, because I know guys like this do exist.
Yeah.
There are some just wild dudes out there who are like this.
I'm sure there are far fewer now than there were back in the day. But I've met guys like this. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the guys like this I've met, interesting tidbit. A lot of the guys I met in my life that are like De Niro is, they're not alive anymore.
No, they don't last. These guys do not last.
No.
They usually end up in jail or dead or something like that.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah. Minute 44, if the steak argument wasn't hilarious enough, the coffee argument, did you see that?
Yeah.
De Niro's sitting at the table. He's talking to Joe, and he'll just be, and during the conversation, he'll be like, "So what are we going to do about this fight? Honey, can I have coffee, please?" And like 2 seconds will go by. "Honey, coffee, please." "How long I got to wait?" He's basically asked for coffee. And then in 7 seconds, he's already too frustrated that he hasn't got his coffee yet. I just thought this was a funny ass scene.
Yeah. You're a tea guy. Do you drink coffee?
Not unless I have to stay up or keep myself up. No, not really. Are you into the coffee?
I have one a day.
Okay.
Do you drink espresso?
No. It always scared me. I always thought, my God, that's like some concentrated grade A coffee right there.
So if I'm going out after dinner, like if I'm out for dinner and I know I got to keep going, like I'm not going home and going to bed and sleeping it off the dinner, not whatever else, then it's an espresso because that keeps you going. Like that, it's a jolt. It gets you to the next place where then you can figure out where you're going. But yeah, espresso is, that's my jam.
How many packs of sugar are in there?
I just put one, like I put a little sugar. I like the taste of espresso. Like I like the bitter.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good flavor for me. Like it's just like radicchio or any of these bitter cabbages and stuff like that. I like that flavor. Mm-hmm. So barely a little sugar. I like a little sweet, but I don't want to mask the bitter too much.
Pinky out or pinky tucked in?
Always out.
Always out, yes.
Miles out.
Goddamn right. 1 hour, 13 minutes in, Jake and Joey eating out of Chinese takeout boxes. Once again, the Chinese takeout boxes have appeared in a movie, which they appear several times, and we are sticking with our assertion that they do not exist in real life. They are purely a fabrication of the movie universe. Do you still believe that?
The only time, and now I was like thinking, because when I saw these takeout boxes with the fold up thing, I was like, I have to think of where I saw them. And you remember when we were at Anderson?
Yeah.
And we were across the street, there was a food court. Mm-hmm. And you go underneath the Hudson's Bay, and there was that food court, and they had a Thai, I think it was like a fast food Thai restaurant, and they would throw their thing into one of those.
Oh, we should have taken a picture or something.
But it was made because of Hollywood movies.
Okay.
Right? The movie spawned the takeout box, not the other way around.
Yeah.
This is like Thai Express or one of those.
Panda Express.
No, not Panda Express.
Oh, Thai Express.
It was like a Thai one. Yeah.
Okay.
And I rarely ate there.
Yeah, that was a terrible food court. There was not much stuff in that food court that was good. I usually got the shopping mall sushi, the little sushi spot. Getting back to the movie.
Yeah.
1 hour, 31 minutes in a rage, Jake feels that his brother Joey is stooping his wife.
Yeah.
She finally acquiesced because she's tired of hearing about it. She says, "Fine, I did it. Whatever." And so he goes over to his brother Joey's house. Joey, his entire family is sitting around the dining table. And ironically, Joe is threatening his own son that if he doesn't eat the pasta, he's going to give him a beating. And right when he says that, Jake barges in and gives Joey a beating. So kind of the snake eating its own tail there, if you will, the inception of beatings.
Yeah, and that was a hard scene and you know what? This scene is ahead of its time because people who do get punched in the head can become very violent, and violence is their trade. So what scares me about that is Pesci's not a violent guy. He's the brother of a violent guy. So could you imagine a professionally trained, like a Mike Tyson, coming at you with intent to hurt? Like I'd be like, I'm dead now. It'd
be terrifying. This
is the end of me.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's a terrifying ordeal. And he lays into him. Like he doesn't hold back. Like he punches. And that's the end of their relationship until that weird moment near the end of the movie. But let's do this. Let's do a pasta.
Okay, let's do a pasta.
I don't know what the heck they were eating there. It looked Like
it looked possibly like a baked ziti. I don't know. It looked.
Well,
maybe.
then let's do a baked ziti.
Okay, that sounds delicious to
I'll
me.
throw down. I'll throw down my classic baked ziti recipe. I'll send that shortly.
Oh, that sounds awesome. I would love it. I love any kind of pasta that's baked. Pasta in general.
Baked pasta is fantastic. The baked ziti.
Yeah.
The cannelloni with the stuffed. Oh man, I can't. I that's like beyond my skill level. You'll probably give me an hour, I could figure it out. But baked ziti is my favorite.
Tremendous! I can't wait to see that.
All right, let's do that.
That was incredible. So, do you have any thoughts on the scene of interrupting dinner to give his brother a beating?
That was just a hard scene to watch, and beating a man. There used to be a rule when I was coming up in Toronto. You would never, if a guy was out with his girlfriend or a lady, people just wouldn't fight with you. Because beating up a dude in front of his family or his, you know what I mean? Like it's a very old school notion. Probably doesn't hold up to this day, but people, if a dude was out on a date, you didn't mess with him.
And you shouldn't. You really shouldn't.
It's not cool. You don't like that guy. Wait till he's alone.
Yeah. Also, why are you going out looking for fights too? Like, come on, man. Let's all be cool here.
And I'm not saying that I would wait for somebody because I didn't beat anybody up. Right. I would just, if I was out on a date and I saw people that looked tough, I'd be like, well, they're not going to mess with me. I'm out on a date.
It's funny you mentioned that. Like when I am with a lady, the few times that I've been with a lady, you do feel a lot safer. You feel like you're kind of in a bubble. Like you don't think that someone's going to actually confront you or cause any trouble because there is a sort of level of respect with like, oh, don't bother them.
They're having a good night.
Yeah.
And nowadays, if you picked a fight with me and I was out with my wife, she would just murder. Like she's
feisty.
Violent. She's violent.
Yeah. You got yourself a killer over there.
She's a killer. Yeah.
Okay.
That's how I like it. It's like living with a great white shark.
Oh my God.
It's fantastic.
You should, you know how there's that whole trope of the girlfriend getting her boyfriend into fights, picking fights together. You should do that with your wife. You should get her. You should pick fights and get her to beat up other chicks.
Yeah, or dudes. She's violent.
Or dudes, just freaking side cross kick him in the face. Whatever she does, I don't know. We come to the end of Jake's run. He is now old. Yeah. So we got old fat De Niro. They went on a hiatus. De Niro put on a bunch of weight. Comes back to the movie. He's fat as heck. Looking very aged. And at 148,
there's makeup on his nose too. He's got that Mickey Rourke nose.
Yeah, I think you get that from drinking too much.
And getting punched in the nose a lot.
And getting punched in the nose, that'll do it. Yeah. But at minute 41, 1 hour 48 minutes in, there is a scene where he's pouring these stacked up champagne glasses in a tower. Now, I've seen tons of photos of these from the 70s and 80s. I've never been around a champagne structure in my life. Have you seen or been a part of one of these before? Because I kind of want to.
I want to. I mean, you need to have, first of all, the glasses you use. So most people drink champagne out of a tall, thin flute, right? Yeah. Like it's like a very narrow flute. You couldn't do it with that. Maybe you could. I don't know. It would be a very...
Not the architecture, no.
So the glasses they use is a different type of champagne glass. It's a Marie Antoinette glass. And so the Marie Antoinette glass is named after Marie Antoinette. And the theory was she had very supple boobies. And it took the shape of her breast. So that's that Marie Antoinette champagne glass. And that's
interesting.
That's the party glass, the one that, the Great Gatsby kind of, that's how they drank champagne. Champagne out of a flute is actually a weird concept because champagne, like anything else, is a wine. I drink my champagne out of a wine glass. My wife has some flutes, and on New Year's we'll do it up. But I find flutes are annoying to drink from with my nose. I
don't like them either.
Yeah, it doesn't. There are great scenes in movies of like guys with big beaks trying to drink champagne. It's very funny. It's funny to watch.
Steve Martin in Roxanne bites his nose in
I think that's the one. Yeah. Or Dr. Evil in Drinking the Starbucks. It's one of my favorite. He dips it and he comes out and he's got the foam. He's like it's the Belgian dip.
Yeah.
That got me.
Have you ever done the thing where you intertwine your arms with the champagne and do that?
No,
you've never done that.
No.
That might be purely a manifestation of movies.
Yeah,
that might be what that is.
It seems like a pain in the ass. But pain in the bum.
But it's also it's similar to in movies when the dude lights the lady's cigarette. It's something weirdly sexual about it. Like, we're doing this because later on we might do something. We might be intertwined in another way, perhaps. No.
It just feels like that champagne tower. You're going to be like spilling a lot
and wasting a lot. I would say,
how do you know when to stop? Right, like you're going to try and fill the bottom glasses, but these ones are still cascading. So, like, are you when you're like kind of touch like? I feel like that would take a lot of practice. Mm-hmm. Maybe I would start with water and just see, and then I would work my way up. Like start then with some Canadian sparkling wine, maybe some Prosecco. Then I would do it at the crowd pleaser with the good champagne.
Okay, and also champagne is sticky, so you're going to pick up one of these glasses. You're going to get sticky fingers for sure. Yeah. It might be worth it for the spectacle. Because I am very in favor of spectacles and pageantry when it comes to social events. I feel it gives it structure and creates more of a memory, I guess. So I'm very much in favor of spectacle when it comes to social events. So it might be worth the sticky fingers just to see someone do it.
Yeah. Well, start with one stack and work your way up to the pyramid.
Okay. I'll see what I can do about that. That's actually all the food in Raging Bull. Not much.
3 instances of food in the movie, or 4.
Yeah.
We managed
and two of them had huge fights, actually.
Food and
2 of them had arguments. 1 of them had a beating. So it just goes to show you how prevalent the violence and the mentality of these people were that this occurred.
I think as an overarching theme, though, and correct me if I'm wrong, but food represents home, the home, right? You're eating at home in all 3 instances, except for the champagne thing. They're eating at home. It's a husband and wife. Give me the coffee or give me the steak.
Very domestic, yep.
Pesci's eating with his family. It represents, and this movie is all about a fighter in the ring versus a fighter in their daily life, their home life. And their home life, it's funny, the contrast between how violent their career is versus how violent their home life is. And how the violence in their career, look at how Scorcese did it. There's the blood splattering on the front. Like it's a super blood. He's got it running down his legs, all that. And then the violence at home is very like almost brutal. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's a cleaner violence. It's a more like when he smacks his wife, either of the two. He's like he close fists his second wife once, and that was brutal to watch. Yep. The fighting in the ring is almost like theatrical.
Yeah. I think you're right. There's certain people, Jake LaMotta apparently one of them, where if they weren't a boxer, and you can see this with football players too, if they weren't in the NFL, they couldn't do nothing else. There's nothing else they could do. It's like you can only be a boxer, basically. Yeah. And I think it comes from the wildness in their personal life.
Yeah.
Their psychology is so used to the stress of where they come from the streets that being in the ring is actually normal to them. They feel fine. They can actually get in there and be relaxed and think straight. Whereas other people would just be going haywire because their home life is so normal and just their home life is safe, basically.
Right.
And there is kind of a psychology, Tyson had it, where certain fighters actually create chaos in their personal life. John Jones has it. Tyson had it. Roberto Duran had it. A lot of fighters for some reason, seem to subconsciously create chaos in their personal life, but in the ring, they're so calm, and I think that might be connected somehow.
Yeah, maybe they just feel comfortable in chaos.
Maybe they feel comfortable in chaos
because a fight is chaos, right? It's an athletic endeavor, like any other sport, and there are ways to like. Everyone who, like I said, there are different styles all around the world, but there's a jab, there's a straight, there's a hook, there's an uppercut. Right? They've honed it to such a science that there's a slip, there's a dip back, there's this guard, there's the Philly guard, there you know what I mean? There are different guards.
Yep.
And so you know what to expect, but then also in a fight, you don't know what to expect.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Because it's a fight.
There is something about it. I'm not sure what. Well, also, when you're in a fight at that level, I've only been in small kind of sparring matches in a gym setting, very controlled, very sort of like 1% of 1% of what a championship fighter would experience.
Right.
And even the small taste that I've gotten, it really is a very strange, highly heightened psychological experience where everything disappears. You're just focused on this one person. And if you get beaten up, if you actually take a beating in a sparring match, it does psychologically mess with you for a long time. It does.
Oh.
So, and at the same time, when you're really good at it and you're doing well at it, other things in life seem boring.
Right.
Yeah. So maybe the heightened psychology of being a prize fighter, then you go back to your regular life and you're like, this is just so boring, man. Maybe just cultivate some kind of conflict, just stir things up.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And you see there's a lot of domestic issues. And then also your brain is taking just a savage beating.
Yeah.
Right?
This guy in particular, Jake LaMotta.
Yeah, Jake LaMotta took a beating because he was a chin guy. Like he had a good chin.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. Another great fighting movie that comes to mind that kind of has a lot of elements of this, like, is the one with Wahlberg with Christian Bale. He's
The Fighter.
It's about Mickey Ward. And have you ever seen the Ward Gaddy fights? That legendary series of fights is insane. And that movie is about Mickey Ward, who arguably wasn't the best. The Gaddy was the better technical boxer, but Ward he could take a beating.
Yeah, and it was a weird style matchup. Like Gotti was supposed to just run right through this guy, and Ward actually ended up beating him, and he made a name for himself. Kind of saved him from being just a tomato can for the rest of his life.
Yeah. So interesting. But I think what Scorsese accomplished here is to say that, and we've danced around this. Basically, the life of a fighter outside of the ring is just fraught with. You look at him in the ring, he's always, even if he's throwing the match or he's losing, he seems in control. He is never in control outside of the ring. He can't control his emotions. He can't control anything.
Right.
It's a very fascinating character piece, I think. Yeah,
it really is. I think there should be more fight films, and maybe one day I'll direct one myself. We'll see out there. If some of you will tell your friends about this podcast, God damn it, so I can get some money. Jesus.
Let's go.
Let's get some.
We're not doing this for free. We want that sponsorship money.
I know. Yeah, there's there's so many great stories in boxing. There's a great story about, I believe it was actually Sugar Ray Robinson. It was either him or Joe Louis. I'm not sure. I always get those two guys mixed up. But he had a dream he was scheduled to fight a guy on like Saturday. He had a dream on, I guess, Monday. And in the dream, he killed the guy in the ring. He beat him up and he died in the ring. And so he called his promoter and everybody else. He said, the fight's off. I'm not doing this.
Yeah.
They had to bring a priest and a rabbi and a minister, everybody. They had to bring all these guys to him and say, listen, it's just a dream. That's not going to happen, bro. So he goes in there, fights the guy, kills him in the ring. Can you believe that? Like he really predicted it in his dream.
Could you imagine? Like,
the guilt must have been incredible.
That's insane because this is a sporting event. Mm-hmm. And so like, it's not like Rocky IV when like Dolph's like, if he dies, he dies. Like,
Oh
no. This you're going in for sport. You're not trying to kill the guy, but you are trying to kill the guy.
Yeah, that's what's so crazy about it. It's just, there's so much psychological energy around boxing in all facets. And in another instance where a guy died, Boom Boom Mancini famously killed Dooku Kim in a boxing match in the 80s. And then Dooku Kim's mother committed suicide a month later. And then the referee committed suicide a year later.
You imagine?
Yeah.
Like as a ref, you're involved in that. You should have called it, right?
Yeah, I've heard of that happening though. I've heard of people who are in the presence of some kind of violent act where someone dies, and it scars them so much that they ended up actually killing themselves too. There's a weird thing where it becomes contagious psychologically. I'm not sure why. It's just a weird thing.
It would have been better.
It's filled with those characters.
Your story would have been better if his mother came and avenged. Like,
that would have been good.
That's a great story.
Yeah, that would have been much better.
She killed him. She trained up, an 85-year-old woman trained up and beat a professional boxer in the ring and killed him.
Oh, that would have been incredible. That would have been great. I wish there was more Indian boxers out there. I don't know of any of them.
I know. I don't know many, but no, I don't know any.
I think there's a real missed opportunity because there are a lot of poor people in India. And if someone just started a boxing program in India, there would be some hungry dudes in there every day, I'm pretty sure, if they thought they could make $1 million as boxers. So
yeah,
someone's got to get on that.
I will fly over there and set it up.
Okay. So that was all the food in Raging Bull. Shall we do awards?
Yeah, let's do awards.
Not much going on in this one. Best food scene, best use of food in your opinion?
I'm trying to think of the one you're not going to take. It's the steak. Sorry, dude.
Steak scene? I'm going coffee scene.
You're going coffee scene. Okay, good.
Yeah. Honey, coffee.
Yeah.
Honey, please, coffee. I got to wait. That's the scene.
The steak scene sets up the domestic life.
Yeah.
Very, very well. And even when he switches wives, it's just a good... It was a catalyst for his home life. And the coffee?
And the coffee, that's mine. Yeah. So I just liked that. It was just so funny that he was so impatient about it. And also I love it in movies where a character's talking to someone and they get distracted by someone else over nothing. I just love those types of scenes. Yeah.
I'm trying to think of where that happened. It was a Saturday Night Live sketch. Do you remember, was it the Saturday Night Live sketch or Mad TV when they spoofed The Sopranos? And they did it where it was like they cut out the swearing because it was on the PAX net, like the Christian network.
Oh yeah, I remember.
And it was like it was a 5-minute episode, and it was Mad TV, and Will Sass was playing Tony Soprano, and there's one scene where he's yelling, and then he goes off camera, and he's like, ah.
Oh, it's funny stuff.
Having an interaction off, like just you're in the focus here, and then you just go, nah, is funny to me. Always.
Yeah. A hilarious one was in The Social Network when the Winklevoss twins go to the Harvard president.
Yeah.
And they're like, sir, this and this happened. And the guy's listening. And he's like, hold on for a second. Grace, punch me in the face. Sorry, continue. You know, he just like.
There's a subtle one in Old School when Will Ferrell is working on his car and his new wife comes out and he's talking to him. And he says something about the car, and then he just turns to somebody arbitrarily off camera and goes, oh, hey, Mike, and then goes back to it. It kills me every time.
It's so funny.
Weird shtick in movies that I love.
Yeah, I love it when dudes just get interrupted by something, and there's something funny about it. But character that you would most like to have dinner with?
Yeah, I'm going to try and... like a boxer, I'm weaving to try and figure out where you're going to catch me on this one next. It's got to be, for me, it's got to be Pesci.
Pesci would be a good one because he would talk a lot. He would tell you a lot of things.
And I want to understand LaMotta, but from the person who knows him best. Mm-hmm. And not from him because he doesn't seem to know himself.
Okay. That's true. That's true. He is unaware of himself. Very unself-conscious, I guess.
Yeah.
Or else unself-conscious, unself-aware.
Unself-aware.
Yeah.
Also unself-conscious.
Also unconscious at certain
he
points.
gets unconscious.
I'm going to throw a curveball for my pick. I got to have dinner with Sugar Ray Robinson. That dude's got some stories, man. I want to know all that dude's stories. So
Yeah,
Sugar
is a big nickname within the boxing. There's Sugar Ray Robinson, Sugar Ray Leonard. Sugar is, I
think Sugar Ray Robinson started it.
I think he was the first Sugar.
Yeah. Sugar Rashad Evans in the UFC.
Right, yeah. I'm going to just start calling myself Sugar Gross.
Oh, I don't know about that one. that one's real clunky, dude.
There was a guy before your time at Anderson. There was a guy whose last name was Sugar. And
really, for real?
And Nasser and I would be like, Sugar!
Well, explain the nicknames you had for people, because there was a lot. There was... no, go ahead and explain. There was Sugar. What else was there?
Sugar was his last name.
Yeah.
My partner.
There was Remington.
Remington, because his last name was Steele.
Yeah.
So Remington Steele.
You had Downtown.
Downtown Brown. Yeah, that rhymed, and that stuck with her.
Oh, really? Okay.
My partner, who wasn't Nass, the one who I'm not going to name.
Yeah.
We called her Pitbull.
Yep.
But that I didn't give her that nickname. That nickname was from prior to me. Anthony is Conda. Anthconda.
Was that you? Did you give that to him?
That was him and
okay.
I, yeah.
All right. Monica was Monster.
Monster. Mon.
Yep.
There were.
Did I have one? Did you give me one?
No, you're Paul.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, Nasser called Mark, the boxer, called him Cherub.
Yes, he did. Yeah.
Nasser's
did he call him Cherub?
Yeah, Nasser's nicknames never stuck, but they were always kind of just off-putting. Like they made you feel uncomfortable, which is like that's his shtick. It was very good. I thought it was fun.
Well, he said that he kept a list of his favorite Pauls, and I would, every time he told me he updated it, I would fall farther down on the list.
Nasser is a very good trash talker.
Yeah, phenomenal trash talker. We had some good trash talk sessions, me and him.
Yeah.
Oof, some good ones.
Yeah, there's some other nicknames I don't recall. But
okay. Do you have any nicknames for Tony?
Miller? No.
Yeah, no. Okay. All right, that's it.
That's it. All right.
Actually,
Ray, are we? Oh, where are you going?
Oh, I was just going to explain. Like, I've been in different places, and I've always gotten different nicknames at different places. So I have a bunch of nicknames that I've been called in my life.
Me too.
I'll list mine, then you can list yours.
Yeah, you go first.
So in high school, everyone calls you by your last name. So everyone called me Dylan, to the point where people thought that was my name. And then when I made friends with some guys from Hamilton, and they called me P. Diddy. To this day, they still call me P.
Because of Dylan, PD.
Paul Dillon, P. Diddy. Yeah,
that's a good one.
Yeah, so I had P. Diddy for a while, and then when I went to Grip, the Jersey Shore was in full swing, so they called me Paulie D.
Right, that's good.
Grip
makes sense.
Yeah, and then I think that's all my nicknames to this point.
Okay.
I think I might have another one. I'm not sure. Anyway, what do you got for nicknames?
When I was young, a little kid, and I went to summer camp, they called me Grandma.
Oh, why?
There's a Ghostbusters character, Grandma Gross. My last name is Gross, so Grandma.
That makes sense.
It was a good, actually a good nickname. That's nice. That stuck for a while. Mm-hmm. When I was in high school, a bunch of people called me Hillary. Which I thought was
why?
I thought it was one guy in my locker. I went to an all boys school, and so the bullying was like just it was like kill or be killed in that environment. So you had to be witty, But one guy just out of nowhere was like, "You look like Hillary Swank," and I was like, "I guess I do." And then they just called me Hillary, which I thought was very funny. I didn't care.
You can't let them know it bothers
No,
you.
I
Then
thought
they're just gonna,
I thought it was funny anyway. And then my friends always called me like Bear, because Jer Bear, and
I like that.
my
Yeah,
wife,
I like that.
my wife calls me Bear. So
Oh, so cute.
yeah, Bear has been a nickname of mine for a long time. When I lived in Asia, I was called Uncle Jeremy.
Oh, Mark Maristella called me Uncle Paul.
Yeah,
Actually,
I don't know. I don't know
Anderson.
why, but I just got called Uncle a lot, which is so stupid, but it's funny.
The other Filipinos called me Kuya Paul.
Kuya,
Henry Calion called me Kuya.
That's like
Paul,
a term of that's like a term of endearment.
Yeah,
Kuya,
yeah. So I got Kuya Paul, I got Uncle Paul. Mark once called me Uncle Paul in a meeting. In an actual meeting, he called me Uncle Paul.
But my wife and I, on our honeymoon, we went to Taiwan, and we'd go to bars or wherever. And people who still knew me were like, "Uncle Jeremy," and she'd be like, "That is not going to be a thing."
Oh no! I think it's a term of endearment. I think they like you.
I don't. I just think it was creepy. It just came off as very, very creepy.
Oh, that sucks.
But it was
those
funny.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Uncles are nice. Uncles are. I mean, I guess they could be creepy, but it depends on the context.
I think that's where it was the creepy uncle. In Mandarin, it's guai susu, which is creepy, dirty uncle.
I like that, man. You pronounced that very nicely. I like that.
Probably not. There's in the comments. Tell me how. Yeah. All our Mandarin listeners.
Yeah. Do you have any final thoughts on Raging Bull, Jer?
Should we rate it? Movie?
We should. Yeah, we should.
Food movie. What do you got?
Food. I mean, it's not much in here, so I got to go. I got to go one Chinese food container out of 5.
One fake Chinese food container.
One fake news Chinese food container out of 5. And as a movie, I'm afraid I got to go 5 out of 5. Burnt steaks. Burnt
to a crisp. Domestic violence steaks. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So me as a food movie, I'm gonna go. That's a 2. I feel like there was just enough food to keep me going on the food, but it didn't carry the story that much. The only reason I bumped it to a 2 was because it did talk. There was a theme around it, at least a gentle theme around. Well, not a gentle theme, but a slight theme around it. So yeah, that's a 2. And as a movie, yeah, that's a 4.
4? You're not going 5?
It's not a hard 5 for me. No.
Wow.
I hold Scorsese to a different standard.
So this is not as good as Goodfellas. This is not as good as
for me. It wasn't as enjoyable as Taxi Driver, Goodfellas, and a couple other Scorsese movies. But no, Taxi Driver and Goodfellas. I like those more than I like this. But I do like this. Like 4 is a good score. And I can't give midpoints like 4.5. So it's either 4 or it's either 5. And I round down in this case.
Okay, I think this is Scorsese's best work, frankly.
You think it is?
I really do. Just technically masterful. Everything about it was incredible. Yeah, I think this is his best stuff. There's other 5s too, but I think this is the best out of the 5s. So That's just what I think.
Hey, that's why we're allowed to differ in opinion.
That's right. This is not the internet where you get flamed for having a different of opinion. This is a podcast. We're civilized. We're gentlemen, for God's sakes. Look at us. Yeah.
I'm an uncle.
Final thoughts, Chair? Final thoughts on Raging Bull?
Final thoughts. Great film. Enjoyable. Love to get back into it. Hadn't watched it in years and really appreciated it more as a movie now than as like a guy getting beaten up. Which to me, when I was 10, was what it was to me.
All right. I'm going to ask you this. Is there anyone, if you could, this is a Fight Club question, actually. If there's anyone you could fight in a boxing match, who would you fight?
John Cusack.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. Always John Cusack.
You hate John Cusack
Not a
and
fan.
Joan Cusack. You don't
John,
like any Cusacks.
both Cusack.
Tag team match. Maybe you and me versus them.
Sure. I mean, I don't want to be the one that punches Joan Cusack, but I'll let my wife handle that. How about you?
You said you don't want to punch John Cusack? Or
Joan Cusack.
Okay. All right. You like what I think. Okay. So it'll be a mixed tag team match between you and your wife and Joan Cusack.
How about you?
Me? Whew. That's a tough one. There's a lot of people out there who deserve a beating, honestly. There's a lot of people out there who deserve a lot of people talking crap.
Beyond the Cusack.
Beyond the Cusacks. I think I might have to. You know what? I'm going to punch. I'm going to piece up a little bit. Justin Timberlake.
JT.
I never liked the way he left Janet Jackson to take all the blame for that Nipplegate crap.
Yeah, that was weird. Yeah.
Her career got ruined. He was like, it wasn't planned. It was a malfunction. But before that, he was like, hey, man, we're just trying to give you something to watch and be controversial, bro. And then he kind of backed off it and just pushed Janet Jackson out there to take all of the crap. It never sat well with me. So
yeah.
I need to teach this kid a lesson. Yeah.
I agree. He deserves to catch a beating for that.
He does. His face is a little too pretty, too.
Yeah, he needs to be muddied up a bit. Fair enough.
Yeah, that's it for me.
Fair enough.
Anyway.
All right.
That's the, I forget what number we're on. Possibly 16 or 17.
Yeah, we're getting up there. We're getting up there.
Yeah. So that was the Food and Movies podcast for Raging Bull. Not too much food, but we will see you next time when we don't know what the next movie is, but it's going to be eventful.
It's going to be amazing.
Thanks for listening, ladies and gentlemen. Talk to you later.